Hi, this is Amanda.
And this is Jen.
And you're listening to Just This, a podcast that explores everything around being and becoming a mother or parent.
We're excited to have you join us as we dive into the practical details as well as the unseen energetics on topics that span from preconception to years after birth.
So today we are going to talk about one of our favorite topics, elimination communication.
Yes.
This is
and why
Jen
is our favorite?
This is how Jen and I met. So
this is how we met. Who would have thought EC would have brought us together for wow, quite a few years now. How many years have we known each other?
Crazy. Yeah. We have this, the Diaper Free Collective, which has been going strong for almost 3 years.
Yeah. Thanks to Amanda. Seriously.
And it was all of us. It was a collaborative effort.
Mostly
for sure. You. Yeah. So because of that, we could definitely talk about this topic for hours and hours. Mm-hmm. And there are workshops Jen teaches, or some of us coaches in the collaborative teach for hours and hours. But we're going to keep this as a brief overview about EC, what it is, and just giving you a little bit of insight as to practical ways, hopefully to inspire and spark if you don't know what it is, to kind of look and explore more about it, why we both love it a little bit, and practical ways to integrate it into your life as a parent or caretaker or whoever you are listening to this episode. So, yeah, do you want to just start with your, description of what elimination communication is?
Yeah, so I think a little background, I did EC with my son since 2 months, and you did it since when with Penelope?
I started at 4 weeks. Yeah.
4 weeks. Okay. So pretty fresh.
Okay. We all kind of discovered it after having the baby.
Yes.
I think we all did come to it after having a baby, and our deep dives of alternative, postpartum mothering practices. And really, I feel like it's not super, at least where we are, it's not super alternative anymore. Still, I guess, kind of cutting edge, but it's becoming more and more well-known.
Yes, I agree. The first time I actually heard about it, I was studying for my acupuncture boards, and the teacher that was conducting the class, she told me about how her daughter was potty trained by 6 months. And I was like, what? If I ever have a kid, I want my kid potty trained by 6 months. But, she was living in Thailand, where EC practice is more known. It's more like a cultural thing that everyone just kind of understands. So I think that actually helps to elicit faster potty training completion, and at 6 months, obviously, you still need to help them. I think one thing that gets confusing for people is what's the difference between EC and potty training?
Yeah. So let's go back to what would you consider elimination communication? What's your definition of it? I guess
my definition of EC is about just teaching kids where we go to the bathroom, where we eliminate. That's the basic broad version of it for me. What about for you?
I think I'm going to try to say what it is, and I'm going to read what we have on our website. I love that Breann also always brings it back to the communication. It's about strengthening the bond and communication, and that intuitive communication we have with children from birth, and honoring their natural body biological signals and needs, giving them the opportunity to go to the bathroom outside of a diaper, because that's the more natural state of doing it. So really trying to lean into, as much as possible in our modern world, the natural rhythms and cues of your baby, and then also honoring those cues and giving them that biological freedom. So I'm gonna go ahead and read what we have. It's
and
hard
just to add to that
sometimes.
And add to that real quick too. I think that I tell, when I teach classes, is that we're taught how to tell when baby is hungry, right? Or when baby is kind of sleepy and things like that. But we're actually not taught when they need to go to the bathroom. And that's just another signal that they're trying to communicate with us. Yeah. And the way babies communicate with us is through crying. Really, that's their only form of communication.
On that note, what's even crazier is we're taught, oh, like if they're crying, check these 3 things or 4 things, right? And often it's like dirty diaper. Well, sometimes they didn't have a dirty diaper. It was totally fine. Well, did you give them a little bit of time to actually go, like when the diaper was off? Because that's what their body like release the diaper. They need to go and like let them relax. And then also we all know that like oftentimes it's like you take the diaper off and then they'll go pee all of a sudden
Yes.
because that's natural.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you want to read this something for us?
Elimination communication is a stressless, gentle, non-coercive style of pottying your baby or toddler. The relationship between the caregiver and child is based on observation, sign language, signaling, intuition when the child needs to void or eliminate waste. There's no judgment, no right or wrong way, and it's self-paced. Caregivers can start the process as a newborn baby or toddler.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing too on the intuition. One of my favorite things to talk about in EC is the phantom pee. Did you ever experience that? You literally feel like you're holding your baby and you literally feel like they peed on you. Your body in that area will literally, like where their crotch is, will literally get warm and it feels wet. And you're like, oh my gosh, baby just peed on me. You remove baby a little bit and there's nothing there. And
I don't
then
think I ever experienced that.
Oh man. I wish that for everybody that does EC, because it's like such a trip. Like it just tells you that there's some energetic laws out there, you know what I mean? Like in real time.
Yeah.
It also happened with my ex too, because I was like, oh, maybe it's like a mom thing or something, but no, like it happened with my ex too. Oh, he peed on me. He was like kind of upset and he like picks him up and there's like nothing on there. I'm like, put him on the potty.
And he goes,
Puts him on the potty and he goes. So anyways, if you ever do EC, I hope you experience that.
I mean, no, it's crazy. I think that this is like, it's a good place to go. It's like when you're doing it, I remember, and I think we all had those moments, even just putting your baby or whatever we're potty and doing like the little sound and then you go and you're like, mind explodes.
Your mind explodes.
Yeah, that's when you're like, okay, I'm sold. Like I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And I think this leads into the fact of what we really try to emphasize in our just honoring their body's needs. Everything we just did in the description. And in doing that, there's like so much other little ripple effects that are happening. Like it's not about the perfection of like, my kid has gone in the potty like every single time and they're out of diapers by 6 months. It's really more about weaving in, I don't know, like a more natural approach. And Andrea says this, and Andrea Olson, which we all, she's Go Diaper Free and has a ton of resources out there. Expanding on the topic, going over there, she talks about the things that come afterwards, because there is this little bit of independence or self-confidence or like things like that are actually you start to see when they're older. That really, I don't think there's studies out there on this, but I truly believe all of us who have integrated this kind of, and maybe it's because of the communication we're starting with our kids so young or whatever it is, that they have this trust or this ability, this desire to communicate in a different way. But just all kinds of, like, it goes beyond pottying. Like you see the way that they want to take responsibility for some of the things they do, or the way they interact with you or other kids as they get older. It really is amazing. And I do think that this is just one act. I don't think it's everything, but it is one thing you can add into what you're integrating and doing with your baby from birth, if or whenever, that actually, it kind of goes into like how they're going to become a person and act and respond in the world.
Yeah, I think what it sounds like what you're talking about is like body autonomy. Like the kids that do EC, they're starting to get body autonomy at a very early age, because they have to become aware, like, oh, I'm having this sensation and now I need to like do a signal or alert my caregiver that it's time to go. And go ahead.
I just had an aha moment too. I'm like, so much of our work now is around like somatics, like somatic healing, somatic this. And it's like, body autonomy and like somatic awareness.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah. At a really young age, because if we don't do EC, like the average kid now that gets potty trained is around 3 or 4, right? So that's 3 or 4 years of no integration into the internal body system at all, really. And sure, they're going to like feel things, but it's not like we're giving them a relationship or any feedback. Oh yeah, you're feeling this sensation, it means this. You're feeling the sensation, it means that. And also to note on there, and I talk about this also in my classes, that there's just something, and it's really hard to put into words, that happens when you do EC with your kid. There's like a relationship and this connection that is built that is completely separate than when you're just diapering. And I say this because I took breaks, right, during EC, just did diapering. I was just like, whatever, I can't deal with the EC thing right now. So I took some time off. During that time, there's almost like a disconnect to some extent with your kid. Not that you're disconnected, but it's when you're watching them and trying to pay attention and meet their needs, you're connecting with them in a different way. Whereas with the diaper, it's like, I could just be like, oh yeah, he's good. I'll wait for him to cry. And maybe not even like that, but even in playing and stuff like that, there's a little bit more of a disconnect. And I think that really, when you do EC, it really builds that foundation and that connection.
Yeah.
Too.
And just to like add into that, I do think there's like a swinging a pendulum to the other side. I've seen this where people overly offering the potty or checking pants. And I think that's the other thing, is it helps us find balance, because it's like, okay, there's a balance between putting your kid in a diaper and not, waiting till they cry and then, doing that. And also, okay, like they haven't peed in the last like hour, like we're going to offer, or I know they need to go. And
right. Guilty of both, by the way.
Yeah, we all are. I mean, and that's how I think that's it's a practice. It's not like, again, not coming out, there's no perfection. It's a practice that helps us learn as a parent how to find the balance of how can we aid our, little ones as they grow into their beings without micromanaging or overly
disconnected.
Yes. There is this like you're building this communication from such a young age, and working with every child has a different energy. Every parent has a different energy, trying to find it in this really subtle way, because there is no words often in these 2 years leading up. And so it's a really beautiful way of building like a deeper sense of communication within yourself and with your child, and giving that to your child at a young age. So really cool.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting too when, cause Eli was out of diapers really at 18 months, nighttime by 2, which is pretty average from what some of the EC studies are saying, at least here, but I remember just thinking like, oh, he's really not advanced. Like he didn't really get out early, but no, we were like one of the few people that didn't have to carry diaper bags. And, you just sit there and hear parents complain like, oh, my kid won't lay still. I can't get him to lay down for a diaper change. Can't really relate to this, but I hear you. Just kind of secretly inside celebrating.
And no guilt to be put on anyone, because a lot of people don't know about this. And we've had parents come in doing this with their second child, and they're like, I wish I would have known with my first, because especially you were saying, like if you hit 2 or 3 years at this point, it's like your child has become accustomed to a certain thing and like what's comfortable to them. But yeah, there's no time like the present if you're listening to this, and or share it with somebody who does know. I mean, that's the thing, is our desire with the Diaper Free Collective was just to like provide a space where people can come and meet others and ask questions and explore the topic in curiosity in like a way that feels safe and integrative. Let's talk about modern day and integrating EC
Yeah.
We won't go into like the nitty gritty. I think if you're interested in that, of how to get started, the 4 common signals, all of that, you can come to our website or go diaperfree.com. We'll put those in the note because there's lots of information out there about that. But I think just generally, one thing we try to emphasize is just how to integrate the practices, and also the fact that you don't need to do EC full time. And there's many ways, like I've seen so many ways to do it. And it doesn't mean that anything you've done is like out the window. That's the other thing we try to emphasize. Anything you've done, even if you've never gotten a catch, like you're building that communication and body awareness still, even if you seemingly are feeling like you're failing, but that's not, you're not failing.
You're not. And also I stress too with that is that learning is nonlinear. We like really think, oh, I know this, and then everything's going to build on top of that. But that's just not the way that learning works. Sometimes it is a lot of step forwards, but then sometimes it's like a lot of step backs. And also I noticed in my own personal experience of learning, and I can't imagine it's much different for babies, but like sometimes we need breaks, right? To like kind of integrate what we are learning and like really be like, what, like, I just need a moment to like process all this and figure out what's going on. And then if you're also like developing or there's a lot of changes going on, like you're going to need some time to integrate all that too. So
another thing I really like to bring up and remind people is it's okay if you choose to like practice this or try to integrate this practice with your kiddo or whatever kiddo you're with. it's okay if the others people around you are not. I've heard that too, that like reasoning for not doing it is, well, it's just me, my partner doesn't want to do it, or they go to a daycare. It's okay. Like, even if you're just at home doing this with your kiddo in the evenings or on the weekends or whatever it is, any amount I feel like is beneficial, even if
Yeah.
it's a small amount. It'll definitely have ripple effects and what they're
Mhm.
doing with other people and as they move forward in their own lives, but it's also going to change your connection with the
Yeah,
child that you're working with.
totally. My
So
ex wasn't into it, so I did it pretty much on my own. And I don't think that stopped things or anything like that. Though I have to say that really what flipped him eventually was like when he caught a poo in the potty, because not having to wipe your child's, I'm gonna say the A word right now, ass,
yeah.
just like, and wipe butt, like wipe poop off their
Or just
butt.
clean up poop, not having to clean up poop.
It's so amazing. You just take the little bucket or like the toilet seat or whatever you have, put a little water in there and swirl it around and dump it in the toilet. They make sure the poop goes in the toilet, and they're like, that alone, I'm all for EC. And I hear you. I
My
definitely hear you.
my daughter went to she was in like childcare 3 days a week, and so they didn't do it there with her. But as she got older, and even to this day, she will not poop at school. But still, I think there was some like body awareness. Oh, like I could wait till I go home and get offered to have this stuff not
Yeah.
be stuck on me. Or
That's so interesting because Eli's like that too. Like he poos at home too. Like
yeah,
it's like, I wonder, that's like a really interesting thing. He doesn't like to go out. Like if he has to go when we're out, he wants to be comfortable in his like, it's so
yeah,
funny. I
yeah,
wonder how many EC kids are like that. Like they
yeah.
plan.
That'd be an interesting poll. I mean, I wonder if that's just a normal kid thing, or what we're saying is like ED
Probably a little bit
related.
of both.
Yeah.
But that's
Um,
really comical. Yeah. Yeah, some final things like I definitely ran into some resistance. Like even my mom, remember telling my mom like I'm the EC Eli, and I wouldn't say she was against it, but she's like, yeah, okay.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
I
you're
had
kind of
eyes rolled
crazy.
at me so
Yeah.
much, so much. And again, it was a similar thing where my partner's parents were just like, okay, whatever. Cause we'd always like
Yeah.
potty the baby before we left. And same thing, she was 6 months old. We were pottying her before we got in the car to leave,
Yeah.
and she pooped. And that was it. Like they were like, they were
What?
like,
Yeah,
they were like,
yeah.
oh my God, oh my God.
Yeah. And then they tell all their friends, they're like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
They're like so proud. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing happened
People will roll their eyes at you, and it's fine. It were like
until they see it.
yeah. Going into the doctor's office, that's always one people like to say is like
Mhm.
if they ever take their baby, like to the pediatrician or whatever, and then they take the diaper off and they hold the baby over like the
Mhm.
sink, and the baby starts peeing, and nurses are like, wow.
Yeah. And I've heard some really cool things about that. They needed their urine collected or like a stool sample. And instead of having to do like this very invasive, procedure, they just have their kid. They're like, oh, I can get it because I know how to EC. And then boom.
Yeah.
There's also some fear that like we're traumatizing our kids. But like you said, real EC is gentle. You're not forcing your kid to stay on the toilet and pee or poo. And if you really do EC, you learn that in time, and kids learn this too, probably faster than we realize as parents, but that this is like one thing they have control over, right?
Yeah.
It's not so much peeing, but really pooing, that they have a lot of control over that. And that goes back to that whole body autonomy and like that
Mhm.
somatic integration and stuff like that. But I think everyone should at least try EC. And the other thing too is a lot of fussy babies, sometimes it is that they just need to go to the bathroom and they don't want to go in the diaper. And I've actually recommended this to people, especially during that witching hour where babies just like freak out, during the night and you're trying to get dinner on the table. And I'm like, try offering the potty to them, see what happens. I mean, there's no harm, put a bowl under their bottom, go take them to the sink and like, just see what happens. And a lot of times, sometimes that resolves it. That's like all they needed. They just needed a better position with their body and then to help kind of like resolve what's going on. So yeah, it's interesting. And Andrea used to say this a lot too, that a lot of the colicky babies are just babies that want to go to the bathroom, like in a potty. And I have to say, when she first said this, I was like, that's interesting. But I do find that to be true in a lot of cases. And one of my friends, she had a baby and she said her kid, like there'd be like a dot, a pee on the diaper, and she'd just like freak out. And I was like, oh my gosh, the heaven of babies of EC. You know, my son didn't care if there was pee in his diaper. To have a kid that like really cared, it's like
very sensitive
ideal.
to the-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ideal candidate for EC, you know.
The other thing with the colicky baby and EC thing that I'm thinking, a lot of the EC holds are actually like compressions, you know, like kind of like legs a little bit up, kind of. And so if you do have gas in there, that's really that could help, just the compression of relieving gas too.
Yeah, it's like, it's essentially like putting a baby or a little one into a squatty potty position, right?
Yeah.
Like to like help raise up the thing. So yeah, I agree. And I think for me, really what prompted me to start it was not really the hygiene aspect of it, which was like a plus, or the communication, which was like a surprise, that connection that I received, but was just environmental, because, you know, diapers, like they just stay in there forever. And I was just trying to lower my environmental impact. And even cloth diapers, living in California when my son was a baby, like newborn, is it better to throw this diaper into the landfill and have it take hundreds of years to degrade? Or is it better to like wash these cloth when we're in drought, you know? Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's water that's processed to use diapers too, but anyway, but yeah, that was the main for me, was the environmental aspect. Why did you start EC?
I think it was more, I mean, all environmental is always like a plus, and we're very into that, you know, as well. But I was learning about all these more natural parenting methods, kind of indigenous. I was very interested in like, what were people doing like back when, and like what, you know, I mean, obviously we don't, like you were saying, like we don't live in Thailand. We're in an environment maybe sometimes very cold. We need clothes. We don't live in tribes where there's like a million people watching our kids all the time. So what practices though can be integrated into like the modern living of mothers have been doing this for years. I think they had it right, you know, like they had some things right, what can be integrated, like what things like have withstood over time and like be integrated. And like on that note too, when, you know, you start to learn about elimination communication, you're like, yeah, oh, other cultures actually, like this is like more common, especially in cultures where they can't afford diapers or things like that. I've heard in India, it's very common, you know, they hold their legs out and potting baby over like their legs early on. Southeast Asia, African countries, this is actually still very much part of their modern practices. So I think that's like another thing. I always like to also look at, like what are other cultures doing? And maybe those have been traditions for years and years. And they're still being used today. Like that's actually still how they commonly do things today. You know, we can look at that with so many things like co-sleeping and breastfeeding and like all the things, right? So yeah.
That's awesome. I really love that. I think that's really cool. Yeah. And I love how you're taking ancient wisdom, ancient practices that have been around forever and like integrating them into a modern.
That book, The Continuum Concept, that Andrea always recommends, like I think it's a fascinating and good book to read.
I haven't actually read it, but I've heard about it.
Haven't read it? Oh, you've got to read it, Jen.
Yeah, okay. I'll add it to my book list. I'm almost done with the movie list you gave me.
Awesome. Well, I mean, hopefully this conversation sparked some interest or curiosity, or just was an interesting conversation at the least. And hopefully if you're not already aware of elimination communication, it's something you can either try yourself or, you know, share with friends now. Just highly recommend checking out more information. And our website around it is called diaperfreecollective.com.
And we do community meetings. So
we do monthly free calls. Free. So if you have any questions, and we have people that show up that pregnant, awaiting their first baby, ask questions, get info. I mean, we've had people start from day one, not even home births, like in the hospital, catching, you know, the meconium poops and things like that. And people who are like ready to go right from the start. And then we have people join who kids are like 2 or almost 3. So, you know, if you're interested and you want to jump on our calls, like come and talk to us live and in person.
Live and in person.
So,
live on Zoom. Hey there, amazing listeners. We just want to say a huge thank you for tuning into our convo on the Just This podcast today. We appreciate each and every one of our listeners, and your continued support means the world to us.
If you enjoyed this episode and found value in it, we would be incredibly grateful if you could take a moment to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform or share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it too. Your reviews and shares not only motivate us, but they also help others discover our show.
We're also all about keeping the conversation going and hanging out with our incredible community. Head over to justthis.site, that's justhis.site, where you'll find additional resources, ways to connect with us, and join the conversation, plus some more goodies.
Thank you again for being a part of the Just This community. We'll be back soon. Until next time, remember to take care of yourself and embrace the wonder as you navigate this extraordinary adventure.